Okay, so I have a story for you today that honestly sounds like it's straight out of a sci-fi movie, but it's real, and it's happening right now. It's a story about overwhelming grief, an insane, impossible bill, and a solution that's so simple you're just not going to believe it.
All right, look at this. $195,000. Just let that number sit there for a second. Imagine that showing up in your mail.
And get this wasn't for some crazy year-long experimental surgery. No, this was the bill for just 4 hours of care. 4 hours. All of a sudden, that number goes from just shocking to, well, completely insane.
So, seriously, what would you do? I mean, really think about it. You're already overwhelmed, you're grieving, and then this just lands in your lap. What's the plan?
Well, that's exactly where this family found themselves. They were already going through the absolute worst time imaginable, and now they're staring down this financial nightmare. A bill so big it probably felt like trying to climb Mount Everest.
You know, their first thought was probably the same as yours or mine would be. No way. This has got to be a typo. They added an extra zero or something. But no, they called the hospital, and the hospital confirmed it. That was the real number. And at that point, I mean, what do? You just feel completely powerless, right? Just one person up against this giant, faceless system.
But then, they had an idea. And it wasn't some master plan, not at all. It was more of a last-ditch, kind of crazy thought. What if the solution wasn't some high-powered expert, but, just an app?
I mean, think about how you'd normally fight something like this, right? The old way. You'd have to hire crazy expensive lawyers, maybe some forensic accountants. It would take weeks, maybe even months. But the new way? A $20 chatbot subscription. You just upload the invoice, and you get answers in like minutes. The difference is it's night and day.
And look, this wasn't some flash of tech genius. This was pure desperation. It was a what do we have to lose moment. For 20 bucks? I mean, why not just try it?
And what happened next is where this story gets absolutely wild. They fed the bill to the AI, and it didn't just spit back a summary. Oh no, it turned into a weapon. It went into that bill like a surgeon with a scalpel and just took it apart piece by painful piece.
And this wasn't just some vague analysis. The AI found specific, concrete errors. We're talking duplicate charges hidden deep in the fine print, billing codes that were straight-up violations of Medicare standards. It even found these things called master charges, where they bill you for the whole package deal and for every single little thing inside that package. But here's the kicker. It didn't just say, hey, this looks wrong. It actually cited the specific federal regulations like chapter and verse that proved it was wrong.
But this next part is the real game changer. The AI didn't just find the problems and say, all right, good luck. No, it wrote the appeal letters for them. I'm talking professional, legally sound documents, the kind of thing that would normally cost you thousands of dollars to get from a lawyer. So armed with all this data, with these perfectly written letters, the family went back to the hospital. And you can just imagine, the entire power dynamic just completely flipped on its head. The conversation was no longer, so how are you going to pay this massive bill? It was, so how are you going to fix these errors?
And the result, honestly, it's just breathtaking. The hospital went from defending the bill to suddenly reviewing the charges. And after just a few days, that initial bill for $195,000, it plummeted all the way down to $33,000.
That is a $162,000 savings. Let me say that again, $162,000, all from a $20 subscription. I mean, you can't even calculate that return on investment. It's basically infinite. The family said it themselves. It was, quote, the best money they ever spent. And you can see why. That small, desperate gamble paid off in a way that just lifted this incredible weight off their shoulders, right when they needed it most.
Okay, so this is an amazing story, right? But it's actually so much bigger than just this one family and this one bill. What we're seeing here is a signpost. It's pointing to a quiet revolution that's happening all around us, and it's changing everything about how we deal with these big, complicated systems.
Here's what's really going on. For ages, if you wanted to fight something like a medical bill or a legal document, you had to go through these gatekeepers, the expensive experts. But now you have these affordable AI tools that give that expert-level analysis to pretty much anyone. And what happens then? Well, suddenly, regular folks like you and me are empowered. We can actually challenge these huge institutions and finally level a playing field.
Look, what this story really proves is that AI isn't some sci-fi concept anymore. It's not this thing of the future that might be useful someday. It's here. It's now. It's a real practical tool that can solve very real problems for everyday people today.
You know, we hear that buzzword, disruption, thrown around all the time in tech. But this is so much more than that. This isn't just disrupting an industry. For this family and for millions of other people, this is about something deeper. It's about justice. It's about simple fairness.
And that really leaves us with one last big question. This family took a simple $20 tool and used it to solve what felt like an impossible problem. That same kind of technology is available to all of us right now on our phones and computers. So what impossible problem are you going to solve?